Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Thursday, and all of today's guests, including Farhan Lalji, are brought to you by the Vancouver Giants. Kelowna Rockets in town to take on the G-Men Saturday night at the LEC. Puck drop is at 7 p.m. Head to vancouvergiants.com to get single-game tickets, flex packs, and more. Canada versus the U.S. today in Boston, the final of the Four Nations face-off. And here to talk about that and all matters sporting. From TSN, Farhan Lalji. Thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
Good. What's going on, boys? Just doing this and then heading over to practice.
Canucks practice.
Canucks practice. Is there any other?
Ryan said there isn't practice.
I thought you said there wasn't a practice today, Ryan.
I thought I saw there wasn't a practice. You sure there's a practice?
Okay. I'll double check. I mean, I'm dressed for one. I was told there was one at 11:30.
All right, let's try to get into the building.
Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Really?
That wouldn't be the first time.
An hour from now, you'll see Farhan Lalji knocking at the doors of Rogers Arena.
Well, usually when I do that, I'm talking to you guys live.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Hey, what has this event done for hockey, Farhan?
That's a good question because you got to ask me next week, right?
Yep.
You've got to ask me if the TV ratings are any better in the U.S. because, you know, they have been absolutely abysmal this season, right? I mean, we're talking about like 200,000 for games. Like, it's been ridiculous how bad the TV ratings have been. So I get that we can all wrap ourselves in the flag and get really into it, and it's going to expose some players to an audience that generally doesn't care, generally doesn't look. But like I said, talk to me in a week, talk to me in 2 weeks, and let's see if there's any carryover. Tonight's going to be a great celebration. You know, it's amazing that the NHL actually got it right, and getting it right is because we haven't had best-on-best hockey for over a decade, right? So I think that's what people want to see. The tournament in itself, I mean, is it better than the last version when we had, an under-25 team and a Team Europe? Sure it is. But, but when you play Canada and the U.S. and you get a level of intensity, people are into it. The fact that there were some fights ahead of time last game or right at the beginning is going to draw more American eyeballs to this game. So it'll draw well, but will it have any impact beyond that? We'll see.
Good point. Farhan, on your way to Canucks practice, you think, we think, what do you believe when it comes to Quinn Hughes and tonight's Four Nations final?
Well, I think there's a combination of things, and I know that it was easy for them to leak yesterday that he hasn't cleared, that he's not medically cleared. And I think there's a little bit of spin there because does anybody really believe Quinn Hughes isn't going to play Saturday? Right, and he looked pretty good in these last two practices and took the jersey off. I was first to report on Tuesday night that he would be practicing with the Canucks on Wednesday, and when that happened, you kind of knew that the decision had been made. And even Quinn Hughes' comments following Tuesday's practice, where he said, "Look, the rules are the rules," and I'm surprised in that I did think the NHL wanted to stick to their rules because if they had I think they felt they would have looked bad. I wanted to see Quinn Hughes play in this game because it is best on best. But I think that was part of it. And do I think the Canucks did I think that they didn't want him to travel and didn't think it was a good thing for his health to travel just to be a spectator and a fan? Yeah, I'm sure that was the case, right? And that was part of it. But ultimately, we all expect him to play on Saturday. If you talk to Quinn Hughes Tuesday following practice, he certainly sounded like he felt great and health wasn't an issue. So to say he wasn't cleared, I think there's some gray there, and I think there's some spin there because ultimately this allowed the NHL, and I'm not blaming the Canucks for this, I think this allowed the NHL to conveniently say, and to not have to address its rules and not have to make an exception by going this way with the messaging.
All right, Canucks practice this week. What about Demko? He's not there, and we're talking week to week, and he's not going to be there on the 5-game road trip. And here we go again. A lot of people saying, "Hey, look, this guy, that's injury number 4, Farhan, in less than 1 year." Like, there's got to be some concern there.
There has to be, right? And look, we all know that when he's on his game and when he's healthy, he's incredible. But we say when he's healthy far too often. And his game was finally rounding into form. I think 3 of the 4 games prior to the re-injury, I thought he looked really, really good. And we were starting to see that guy again. But I just don't think you can trust his body. And this is not an indictment on the player. This isn't a character thing. Thatcher Demko is an elite goaltender, but there's always that but. So the Canucks have a lot to think about right now. You've got Kevin Lankinen, who's a pending UFA. They got him on a gold contract here. You're going to need him a lot over the next 3 weeks. So they've got to make some decisions. I think it was you, Rick, that reported that they had made an offer to him earlier, which he wound up declining, and he's in a pretty good position right now. So they've got to worry about this right now, not just short term, but long term, because next year you're going to wind up wanting to renegotiate with Demko. And what do you negotiate that based on? Just huge numbers of injuries. The guy's played less, like he's been injured more than he's played the last 2 seasons. You can't live in that world.
What did you make of Brock Besser at practice? I mean, he's going to be asked. We're 2.5 weeks away. Well, actually, tomorrow is going to be 2 weeks to the trade deadline. His future, 9 years in Vancouver. I mean, he might be gone soon.
Yeah, it's disappointing because, he's a character guy that the market has really grown to love. And when you look at his scoring on a 30 game, on an 82 game pace, he's a 30 goal scorer, right? And 40 last year when he wound up staying completely healthy. I know it hasn't been a great year for Brock, but he can go off at any time, and he's shown that, right? It's not like Pettersson we're looking at and wondering, will he ever get his game back? With Besser, he's going to score again. So do you move on from him? I think the Canucks are still in the mindset of being buyers. I think they're in the mindset of wanting to be in the playoffs this year. And if that's the case, then Brock Besser probably becomes your own rental, doesn't he, Rick? Right? You're not going to trade him and go out and get a goal scorer. You've got a goal scorer in the building. So, I do believe the Canucks are thinking short term. And as a result, I think you're going to see Brock Besser here till the end of the season.
Farhan, stand by. Ryan Henderson has a Canuck practice update.
The wording, Farhan and I are both right. The wording says no practice, optional workout followed by media availability beginning at 10:30 a.m.
Farhan's a member of the media.
Yeah, so there isn't an actual practice, but Farhan could talk to the minds.
There you go. I mean, and look, there was yesterday. I was told there was a practice at 11:30. So we're both right. I'm more right than you because that's generally how things work. But we'll get to talk to him. I'm curious to just hear from Quinn Hughes. I would imagine that Quinn Hughes will be part of the optional, just so that he doesn't have to talk and address all of this because he should have talked yesterday, right? And they chose not to make him available. I'd love to hear from Quinn Hughes.
I felt bad for you a secon. You had the blazer on. You were just ready to go there. And
this is how I roll with you guys. It's either a Hawaiian shirt or a blazer. Hey, what do you make of Billy Guerin's comments?
Of Billy Guerin's comments?
Not his. Just his comments. His whole act in the last 48 hours.
Inviting President Trump to
No. Listen, look, we don't have to like Donald Trump, right? I mean, I'm not going to get into my political leanings because they're not reflective necessarily of how I feel about the U.S. president, who I can't stand. But you're allowed to like your leader, you're allowed to want to invite your leader,
of course,
into the building. But the comments specifically that Guerin made yesterday, where he said they've been inspired by Donald Trump's 51st state comments as it relates to Canada. And they've leaned into some of that. It's not simply him. It's not simply being American. It's those questions and comments specifically. And then, not wanting politics in, but not wanting politics in, right? Like the don't put politics in sports crowd is generally those that say, no, don't put your politics into sports, right? Yeah. If they don't agree with mine. So I got to be honest. Now, maybe Gary Bettman said to him, hey, Billy, lean into this a little bit because it'll help ratings. But I think Bill Guerin has behaved like a jackass for the last 2 days, right? Because you've not distanced yourself from those specific comments, and you've, in fact, leaned into them. We've been inspired by them. Completely offside, and it just adds to the conversation here. And like I said, it's good for ratings, but it's, you got a country that's feeling threatened, and that's not good when hockey matters more in this country than yours.
I agree with you when it comes to those comments. It's not going to happen. No, I don't know anybody who wants to become the 51st state. But I tell you what, our poll question today has to do with the political level of this event. It sure has I didn't think it was possible, but it sure has increased my interest in this game tonight.
It has, and it's increased my level of wanting Canada to win, right? Because the truth is, this event is fiction, right? Like when Canada and the U.S. play, it's a great thing, right? And again, we haven't had best on best in a while, so everybody's leaned into it. I get it. But in reality, the event, Canada won the Four Nations. Nobody cares about the Four Nations, right? So from that perspective, there were some of us that needed to be shown whether or not this was important or not. Well, the comments have just made it more important. They really have. And I want Canada to win more because of this. I don't want to see a troll tweet from the president after that. I don't want to hear people like Matthew Tkachuk and others somehow make some ridiculous comment at the end of this. I don't want them to get to celebrate, given all of this. So, yeah, it has added to my interest level and passion level for the result tonight, no question.
Well, that honesty has helped the interest level as well. He's being honest. He's telling you, and we want the people who we interviewed to be honest. He's being honest. And as a member of the media, as a Canadian, I have a problem with it. As a member of the media, it's look at you, how fired up you are. And we're all fired up about it.
Yeah, look, if you tried to troll us, it's had an effect. Yeah. It's absolutely had an effect.
All right. Keep the blazer on and get to work. Get down to Rogers Arena. I think they're on the ice now, Farhan. You're late.